But yeah, let's move on to my fighter of the year. All right. My fighter of the year is pretty much, I can't really say by default because this fighter did do enough to earn it. And I'm not just saying it because another network said this was the fighter of the year, but my fighter of the year, when I went back and looked at everybody's body of work and what they did outside of the octagon and their accomplishments in the octagon as well, as far as being technical and making the right adjustments in a fight, I had to pick this fighter hands down. Just had to pick this fighter hands down because they really made big out of this situation even before this pandemic. So my fighter of the year, hands down, has to go to Bellator featherweight champion Cris Cyborg. And like I said, I have a few reasons why I gave this fighter of the year to her for WMMA. Number one, she just captured her fourth world title in another organization. So that's Strike Force, Invicta FC, UFC, and Bellator. So she holds four major belts in all those organizations now. So she's definitely set the bar high for WMMA. She was able to stay active. She fought two times this year, and that was against top level competition. Her debut in the Bellator division was a title fight. It was a dominant performance over Julia Budd and a title defense against a very solid competitive boxer in Arlene Blenko. You know, so right there, that tells you that Cris Cyborg has really made good of her situation since getting cut from the UFC. And that's another thing I want to talk about, her brand that she's building. This is another thing you have to give her a lot of credit for and factor in why she is fighter of the year. She's been able to capitalize off a major Bellator deal and make more money than she's ever had, especially with building up her YouTube channel as well. And I say she's actually in a better position than when she was in the UFC because she's really made a name for herself. She's really been able to know her worth after leaving the UFC. The UFC, they're going to pay you a flat rate or a little bit more than what you're worth, but they're going to keep you in the box. But for Cyborg, and maybe this not might work for all fighters, but for Cyborg leaving the UFC, she's been able to step out of the box and become known as this much bigger mixed martial artist than she is. I still feel like Amanda Nunes, yes, she is the GOAT, but Cris Cyborg is right there too. Until that rematch happens, then Amanda Nunes is number one in the octagon. But all around, just as far as like building the brand and showing growth in the octagon, that was Cris Cyborg this year. That has to be Cris Cyborg this year. Going back to her wins against Julia Budd and Arlene Blenko, I'm talking about, hey, she went in there, showcased some great technical savvy in there, very patient, calculated at breaking her opponents down, not just dependent on power, but strength. She was able to go in there and utilize her tools, her clinch game, the knees, the strikes, the groundwork, the ground and pound. She did a little bit of everything. She showcased a lot since that Amanda Nunes loss, and that's why I say she's made better of that situation. Well, I could almost argue that she's making out better than Amanda Nunes in this situation because, again, she's broken out of the box, built up a YouTube following, built up a big following across the world, with the YouTube channel and the Bellator deal. Again, that won't work for every fighter, but she's been able to go back to her roots and really do that with this move to Bellator, where, everything's good because Amanda Nunes has two belts, but at the same time, would she still pull in like a big audience like Cris Cyborg, the way Cris Cyborg has just, been able to make moves for herself now that she has more freedom. So you gotta factor all that in for this year. It's been a hard year. It's been a hard year for a lot of people, but Cris Cyborg has been really, making she's been making moves, turning that, making lemonade out of lemons, if you will. I know that's an old saying, but life's been giving us all lemons, but she's making lemonade out of it. She's really going in there and working her hustles. Big YouTube following right now, and I think more is to come from her. You might get a couple more title fights from her before she retires. And I think even if she retires, she'll have like a gym. She'll have a good brand built, and good money to live off of. So yeah, you got to factor all that in as a fighter of the year. That's why I gave Floyd Mayweather fighter of the year a couple of years ago, because it's not just about the accomplishments. in the ring or the octagon, it's the accomplishments out of the octagon as well, and the ring, those moves you make. So yeah, 2020 Fighter of the Year in WMMA, hands down, Cris Cyborg.